All right, welcome to the fifth module of our AI briefing for military and veteran professionals. Today, we are diving into a powerful, bottom-up skill that I can almost guarantee is already happening inside your unit. We're calling it responsible vibe coding, and it's all about taking that raw talent and turning it into a real, mission-ready asset.
So let's kick this off with a pretty big question for any modern leader. Commanders, what if your own troops could build simple, custom software to solve their immediate day-to-day problems? And what if you could empower that innovation safely and effectively? Well, that's exactly what we're going to cover today. Okay, here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start by looking at the opportunity, then cover a framework called Trust but Verify. We'll detail the specification, which we're treating as our mission orders, then walk through a real-world example, and we'll wrap up with the commander's takeaway. Nice and simple.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the opportunity. First things first, we need to define a term for something that's probably already happening in your formation, vibe coding.
So what in the world is vibe coding? Well, it's just what it sounds like. It's that practice of quickly whipping up small, personal productivity tools based on intuition, an immediate need, with really no formal planning. Think about that one tech-savvy specialist in your unit who builds a little spreadsheet macro to track equipment more efficiently. That right there, that's the raw skill we want to harness.
But here's the thing. That raw skill comes with risk. And that brings us to Section 2, Trust but Verify. This is all about how we, as leaders, can manage the risk that comes with this kind of grassroots innovation, without just shutting it down completely.
The solution is actually a principle that every single leader here already lives and breathes. Trust but verify. We trust our people's ingenuity, absolutely. But we have to verify their process to make sure what they're building is safe, secure, and reliable.
Think about it this way. You would never send a team out on a mission without a pre-mission checklist, right? That's just unthinkable. We have to apply that exact same logic to this domain. We have to demand a pre-coding specification. It is the same discipline, just applied to a different problem set.
So that brings us right to Section 3, the spec. We're going to treat this just like our mission orders. The written specification is the formal doctrine we're going to use to turn that raw vibe coding into a truly reliable unit asset.
So why is it so important that the spec is written before a single line of code is ever touched? Well, we can draw a direct parallel to something like cryptographic protocols. They are designed and meticulously written down before they're implemented. Why? To make sure there are no security holes. The exact same principle applies here. A written spec, created right up front, is our #1 tool for ensuring the security and reliability of whatever tool we build. And look, this doesn't have to be complicated. The spec is really just a simple 5-step checklist. You define the problem and the user, you list the inputs and the outputs, you set the rules for how the thing works, you identify edge cases and, critically, privacy constraints, and then finally, you create test cases to prove it works the way you said it would. It's a clear, manageable process.
Okay, so that's the theory. Now in Section 4, let's actually put this into practice. We'll use a case study that everyone can relate to, building a basic leave calculator. So here's phase 1 of our spec, the problem statement. First, what's the problem? Service members need a quick, accurate way to figure out their leave days. And the user? Any service member. Simple. What are the inputs? Well, they'll need their current leave balance, the start date of their leave, and the end date. And what's the output? We need to know the number of days being charged and what their new leave balance will be. See? Clear, concise, and totally defined.
Now for phase 2. And this is where that trust but verify principle really kicks in. Constraints and edge cases. First, the rules. We all know leave accrues at 2.5 days per month. That's a hard rule. Now, privacy constraints. This is huge. Absolutely no personally identifiable information is stored or transmitted. All the math happens right there on the user's device. And finally, edge cases. What could go wrong? We have to think about things like leap years, federal holidays, and what happens when your leave crosses from one fiscal year into the next. This is where we build in the reliability.
And that brings us to our final section, the commander's takeaway. How do we actually take this from just a personal skill that one of your troops happens to have and turn it into a genuine, valuable asset for the entire unit? The key thing to remember here is that this whole framework, it's not about stopping your innovative troops or bogging them down with bureaucracy. Not at all. It is about channeling their energy responsibly. It's about giving them guardrails so they can create valuable tools that are actually safe, secure, and effective for everyone. And a leave calculator is really just scratching the surface. Think about the other possibilities here. a PCS planner to help with moves, a GI Bill comparison tool for education decisions, a unit study tracker for professional development, maybe even a simple debugging assistant for the more technical folks. The potential here is just immense.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Now that you have a framework to empower your people safely, what's the first, simple, mission-ready tool that your unit is going to build?